Hello, everybody. My name is Sophia Tai, and I am a Research Scholarships Coordinator with Academic Enrichment Programs. I'll be your moderator for today. I wanted to let you all know that we are recording this session. And so if you miss anything, if you have to leave early, that's totally fine. We're happy to have all of you here as long as you can stay. And it will also be posted on our National Competitive Scholarships later. So if you want to check out our site, it's ncs.ucsd.edu. Beyond all of that, I wanted to say welcome. And we are doing our National Competitive Scholarships information session today. And so I wanted to start off with a quick poll. I'm sending it out now. And so we are asking you, what is your academic status, which year you are, and as well as what major of area of focus you are. And so we can kind of see where people are, and the numbers are coming in. Lots of people are putting in. It's very exciting actually to see. So we have a mix of students, certainly from a lot of first years, second years, and third years, with a few fourth years as well too, and fifth years and beyond. A couple of students have actually even graduated, so we're excited to have you here as well. We certainly have options for you to consider for you even after you've graduated. And our greatest poll looks like we have most students from physical and life sciences, although we have a good number of social science students as well. And then maybe about 20% of us are in engineering, and about 15% of us are from arts and humanities. So fantastic. Thank you for voting. It's great to see who all is here. And I'm going to end the poll now. All right, and so I did want to mention we have a bunch of speakers with us today. Our first speaker will be Kim Burton. She is the director of the Education Abroad program. We also will have, after her speaking, is Weg Ongeko. He is a professor in the Department of Surgery. We also have Dr. Ross Frank, who is a professor in the Ethnic Studies Department. We have Dr. David Artis, who is the director of Director of Academic Enrichment Program, as well as Dean of Undergraduate Research Advancement. We have the admissions officer from Truman Scholarship, Christian Tanja, with us. And we will have Michelle Monroy join us later. She is actually the person from Graduate Division who can talk more about a few of the scholarships at the very end. And we'll actually even have two students that will be joining us, and they'll be talking about their experiences as recent winners. So we're going to get started with Kim Burton, and she'll be talking to us a little bit more about some study abroad scholarships.
Great. Thanks, Sophia, and welcome everyone to the session. It's really nice to be with you all today, at least virtually if we can't be all together physically. So welcome to the session. As Sophia mentioned, I do direct the Education Abroad program, and I work in the Study Abroad office on campus. There are many study abroad scholarships that our students can apply for. I'm going to be highlighting the three of these today that are nationally competitive scholarships, but there are many others. And to give you an idea, our students who are abroad this year in 1920 received almost $1 million in special study abroad scholarships to go abroad. So this is definitely money that's just for students who are going to study abroad. You cannot use these funds to be here, to be studying in La Jolla. So that $1 million did include money from the three programs that I'm going to talk about today. But first, I did want to make quick mention about COVID-19 and the impact that it's had on study abroad, because I know if you're planning for study abroad, in the next few terms, that you may want to know what's going on. So all of the students that we had abroad for the spring semester programs, winter and spring 2020, all of those programs were suspended and students were brought back to the US. And then all of our summer 2020 programs, unfortunately, were all canceled. Fall is still a possibility for students that were in the pipeline, although we expect that a number of those programs will also be canceled. However, we do expect that some programs will run in winter, spring of 2021, and we hope to be back up and running with many programs for summer of 21, and then moving forward from there, that things should be back to normal. So I just wanted to share that in terms of how we're seeing things develop as a result of the virus. So now let's talk about some funding opportunities for students. So the Boren Scholarships for International Study, this is money from the federal government. And the purpose of Boren is to really increase the knowledge of US citizens about non-Western languages and cultures as they pertain to US national security. And so you can see a lot of the details about the program on the slide, so I'm not going to talk a lot about that. But there are 3 pillars of things that the Boren program supports and that they're looking for in candidates. So the first one is language. As part of your study abroad program, you need to be studying a language that is deemed critical to US national security. So typically these would be non-Western languages. And so at the bottom of the slide, you can see the list of countries that Boren will not support students studying in, or world regions. And, but all of the other areas of the world, they do support. So language study is crucial to what you want to do if you want Boren funding. And then the second pillar is cultural immersion. So again, Boren is looking to really develop our knowledge about the culture and languages of non-Western locations. So having you be involved and immersed completely in the culture of that particular country is going to be really important. And then the third pillar is service. So public service in positions that are central to US national security through the federal government. So ideally, they're looking for students who are interested in working for the federal government. Eventually, they do have some flexibility with students in different careers, depending on what it is you want to do and how you want to use the knowledge you would gain through Boren support. But ideally, you'd be looking at working in some facet of the federal government related to US national security. So this could include the Department of State, can include Defense, Homeland Security, and USAID. Ideally, Boren is looking for students who want to study abroad for a full year, and you can see the dollar amount that goes up to that year-long support, but they do support students for semester programs. And then the summer awards are for students for STEM majors only. And I know a lot of you attending are STEM majors, as we are a large STEM campus. So it may be that, a summer award works best for you, but because Boren recognizes that STEM students often can't go abroad during the academic year, they've started offering funding to students, STEM students in the summer. So the program is open to students of all majors, but again, as part of your application, you must demonstrate the national security implications of your study abroad experience, and then how you are going to apply that to your career moving forward. So the essays that you write for all of the scholarships we're going to talk about today are really important, that you're looking at the goals of the program itself and then writing about how those goals mesh with your own personal goals and your career goals. Another thing to share is that their definition of national security is broad. So of course it includes defense and intelligence, but can also include economics, food security, and global health. Witness the current coronavirus pandemic and the expertise that we need to deal with this situation. So it's not just about defense and intelligence, it is a broader definition. One of the really interesting things about the Boren program is it does, if you are funded by Boren, you are required to do a 1-year service requirement to the federal government after you graduate. And if you're looking for a job in the federal government, this is a great way to get your foot in the door because they do have a special sort of job postings list for Boren alums, and oftentimes, there's fewer applicants, and it's easier for you as a Boren alum to be able to get an interview and to get a position. So this is a great opportunity for those of you that are also looking for careers in the federal government. The campus deadline, our campus deadline is usually 2 weeks before the national deadline. We'll set it in the fall. And it'll be posted. And then it says the campus nomination is optional. It is optional, but I strongly recommend that you do it if you're going to apply to Boren, which means that you would need to submit the application through us the 2 weeks prior to the national deadline. And then when you get to that point, we'll explain to you how all of that will work. But it can only help you to have that endorsement from the campus. And then also wanted to add that there are Boren fellowships at the graduate level. So if you are getting close to graduation and you say, hey, this sounds really cool, this is something I would really like to do, it really dovetails with my goals nicely, but you're running out of time as an undergrad. There are Boren fellowships for graduate students, which are very similar to the undergraduate scholarships. So you can think about that. Okay, Sophia, we can move on. So the next scholarship we'll talk about are the Benjamin Gilman scholarships for undergrads. And the Gilman scholarships are also funded by the federal government. Thanks, Sophia, appreciate it. And the purpose of Gilman is to support students of limited financial means to study or intern abroad. And so the main criteria for Gilman that you see at the bottom is you must be a Pell Grant recipient, either at the time of application or at the time that you would be going abroad. And so Gilman is looking to support students who have traditionally been underrepresented in study abroad, which would include first generation students, our STEM students, ethnic minority students, students with any physical limitations, and then transfer students. So it's not solely those students, but those are criteria that they're looking at as they're reviewing applications. In addition to the Pell Grant requirement, students must be undergraduates, US citizens, and then participating on a credit-bearing study abroad program. And then when you apply to Gilman, you will, there's sort of 3 parts to the application that I wanted to talk briefly about. One is the statement of purpose essay. And so again, with any statement of purpose, you're really focusing on your goals, your academic, personal, and career goals, and then how those goals dovetail or support the goals of the scholarship program that you're looking at. So definitely, you want to think about that and focus on that as you're working on those essays. And there are, for all of these scholarships, there are really good guidelines, essay prompts on their websites, information, the kinds of the selection criteria. So all of it is on the program website, so you can take a look at that. The other component of Gilman is there's a community impact essay. So they want you to write about how you're going to serve as an effective citizen diplomat while you're abroad. So in other words, how are you going to work to build mutual understanding between your culture and yourself and your host country and the host culture. And so that's something else you want to think about in terms of as you begin to think about your application and how you would write about this. The other thing with Gilman is they do require students as part of the application to write about a follow-on project that you will do after your study abroad experience when you come back to campus or after you graduate. And there are, again, a lot of examples on their website about the follow-on project, but they're really very flexible, and they're looking for students to be creative. We've had students who've done all kinds of things for the follow-on project, everything from coming up with doing a blog or a vlog while they're abroad, or doing presentations to classes, doing presentations to student organizations, also helping the study abroad office with outreach, participating in study abroad scholarship sessions for other students. So they're really extremely flexible. We've had students who've gone back to their high schools and talked to students at high schools about thinking about study abroad to get them thinking about it early. So again, you can look at the project list on the Gilman website to get more ideas, but again, they really are very flexible. Another really wonderful part of the Gilman program is that they do give students an additional $3,000, or up to that, I should say, if you are going to be studying a language that's considered critical to U.S. national security. So you'll see this critical language study as this theme through all of these 3 scholarships. And that's, you don't even have to do an extra application for that. You can just submit it. And so Gilman is giving about 3,500 awards nationally every year, and usually we have 40 to 50 UC San Diego students who do get Gilman Awards, which is really exciting. And we have had students who've gotten that additional money for the critical language awards as well. So, so definitely want to encourage you to think about Gilman. And then the last slide, Sophia.
Hold on one sec. I did want to mention real quick that We will be having Kim leave us a little bit early. So if you have any questions with regards to these first three scholarships, please put them into the Q&A, because we want to have her Q&A right after her talk. And then the rest of the Q&A we'll save for the end. But please put in any questions as you get them. If you have any wonderings about these, we will see them in the Q&A, and I will ask Kim those questions following.
Great.
Thanks.
Of course, thanks. So the last scholarship I want to talk about is the Critical Language Scholarship, also funded by the federal government, also to expand Americans' knowledge of critical languages. And so participants are expected to continue your study of the language after you would participate in the program, and also that you plan to use those language skills in your professional careers moving forward. So they really want to support individuals who, you know, are learning languages, but who really want to use them throughout their lifetime. You can see the languages down on the bottom of the screen. And so they do provide rigorous academic training in these languages that are highlighted, again, that are related to national security and also economic prosperity. So these are fully funded programs, usually 8 to 10 weeks summer language programs, so only summer. And they're a program and a scholarship combined. So when you look at the CLS website, you can see that there are, if you were interested in studying Chinese, you can go in and see there are various locations where they have students go to, or recipients go to learn the language. So in this model, you're basically saying, this is what I want to, this is the language I want to study, this is why, this is how it relates to my career, this is how I can contribute, you know, giving back to the program and the country. And then they'll decide where they're going to, which of those programs they're going to send you. For Boren and for Gilman, you are choosing a study abroad program separately, and then they are, you know, granting you the funding to do that program. So this is cool that it's all combined. You can see the eligibility requirements in the slide. In addition to that, the selection criteria, they're looking for students with obviously a commitment to language learning, a connection between the language and, again, your personal goals, academic, personal, career goals, and then adaptability, sensitivity, and resilience. So, you know, you can be successful abroad. And so what have you done in your past that would allow you to demonstrate that? And those are the things, again, that you're going to be writing about in these all important essays as you look at the scholarships. So usually there are about 500 CLS recipients every year for the summer, and that's a combination of graduate and undergraduate students. So again, I want to say that all of these program websites have very helpful information, a lot of detail on the websites, and they all offer webinars. Probably most are done for this academic year, but they will start up again usually in August to jive with the semester schools calendars. And so they really provide a lot of information for applicants as you're working, or even for exploring the scholarships. I also want to say that we in our office in Study Abroad, we offer scholarship essay writing workshops and also individual essay reviews throughout the academic year. So as you're working on these scholarships or any of the others that we support students with, you can check in with us about those. We will continue to offer those. We also have an in-house financial aid advisor in our office, and her sole job is to help students with funding, including financial aid for study abroad. So as you're exploring study abroad opportunities, you also have the option to be in touch with Tina, and she also does information sessions. We also do them about financial aid and scholarships throughout the year. So as Sophia said, if there are any questions, I will answer them, but please contact me if you have any, if anything else occurs to you after, or you want to get in touch in a few weeks. My name and email is on the slide that will be at the end of the session. And, you know, we are open all summer, obviously virtually, but we are staffed and working. And so if you want to do some exploring over the summer, we are here to help you. So thanks, everybody. And Sophia, if there's anything I can answer, I will try.
Great. Yeah, Kim. Fantastic. We do actually have a few questions. And so I'd like to start with this question. Can students who have a green card apply to these scholarships? And I'm not sure if it's any of them or specifically the CLS scholarship, but if you don't mind answering that question. In
right, and I can't remember off the top of my head. Some of them, yes, they do allow naturalized citizens to apply. I'm not sure about green card holders. So it will say that on their website.
Okay.
To make that
Next
clear.
question, do we have to be a current Do we have to be currently studying one of these languages, or can this program be a starting point? And I believe this is for the CLS.
Good question. I believe with CLS it can be language at any level. So I don't think you need to have already started studying it.
Great. Another question, how do school nominations work? Does anyone who have the qualifications apply and get nominated?
The only one, yeah, we usually don't do, I see that says a nomination for CLS, but I haven't done one of those actually specifically. For Boren, everyone who applies we would do a rating basically. So it's not a ranking. Anyone who applies, we would absolutely give feedback for those students. And I'll have to check on the CLS for you.
Okay, great. And then one last question for the CLS. Do you know if they make an exception for the 1 year of university coursework requirement? For example, if we study with another program in which we have achieved a 1 year equivalent of study, but not in a university class.
Interesting. You probably would have to check that with them. It actually has, this is the exact wording that appears on their website, and I checked it again yesterday to make sure they hadn't changed it, and this is exactly what it says. So that would be something to check directly with them.
Okay. Well, those are all the questions we have at this time.
Great.
Thank you for your time to explain some of these scholarships, and we'll be moving on to the next person.
Great. Thanks for having me. Bye.
Thanks. All right, so next we have Dr. Wegongeko. He is a professor in surgery, and he will be speaking about the Churchill Scholarship. Oh, and Dr. Ongeko, you will need to unmute.
Hello. Originally, my name was under Dora, so just to clarify, my name is Wegongeko. I'm here to talk about the Churchill Scholarship. I also apologize, I've just lost my voice. So hopefully you can still understand me. The Churchill Scholarship is basically a scholarship for the top 15 science students in the US. So it is considered the most competitive science scholarship. And basically I'm sorry. So it's the 15 most competitive students in the United States. The deadline for the submission is November 2 at 5 p.m. Eastern time. My internal deadline is August 1st. It's a little early, I know, but it does take a long time to prep students to be competitive. The scholarship, as you can see on the website, it's worth around $60,000. It pays for pretty much everything, including plane fare, tuition, room and board, plus stipends for travel and special research projects. There are only 15 winners for this scholarship. It's a very intense competition. There are around 110 universities that can nominate for this scholarship, and we are allowed to nominate, each university is allowed to nominate 2. So let me just go over some of the requirements. This one is actually a little dated, so the only real requirement are 2 things. One is that you are a US citizen, and the second one is that you are a senior or have just graduated within the past 12 months at the time of application. They don't really have, on the website, they don't really have a minimum grade point average, but our internal grade point average cutoff is 3.95. And the reason for that is no one has ever won in the past 5 years who had a GPA lower than 3.95. And in fact, the average GPA of people who have won is 3.98. And for UCSD winners, people from UCSD who've won the Churchill, the average GPA is 3.99. So it is very, very competitive. It's not only even just the GPA, the Churchill actually counts the number of A pluses you have. So you can see that this is just like pretty intense. what are they looking for? Aside from grades, I mean, the grades is the first cutoff. The second cutoff is basically the outstanding research experience that you've had. So they're looking basically for people who can think independently. They are looking for people who've had extensive research experience during their college years. And how do you prove that? Basically, you prove that by having very, very, very strong letters of recommendation. So one of the requirements is to have 4 letters of support. And these are usually from research, letters from your research. I think it's okay to have 1 letter from your professor in a class, but for the most part, most of these letters, to be very, very competitive, have to be from research labs. So I know that is very difficult. That's why typically the people who win this are people who start very, very early. The other thing that's on this website was, or on this slide was that they're looking for leadership, and in fact, that has been removed. So the Churchill now basically just looks for the smartest people basically in science. They're not really looking for leaders. That obviously is a big plus, but that's not one of the requirements to be competitive. The Churchill Foundation president basically said they are looking for the next Einstein. So that just tells you the caliber of what they're looking for. And the current director of the Churchill states that they are looking for the best of the best. So it is very daunting, but it is, I mean, from our experience, it has been possible to win the scholarship. Currently there are around 600 Churchill scholarships, 600 Churchill scholars in the world, and of those, 9 have won a Nobel Prize. And among those 9 is James Watson, who you guys should be familiar with. Is the pair of Watson, is half the pair of Watson and Crick for the double helix. So they are really looking for the very, very best. As I said, it is competitive, but it is possible to win it. Over the past, UCSD has won this 5 times over the past 50 plus years, and UCSD has actually won this 3 times the past 4 years. So in the past 4 years, we've had 3 winners. Again, the question you should ask is like, what is unique about them? All of them had the 3.99 plus. A third of their grades were at least were A pluses. The average person, at least from UCSD, who has won it, has had at least 3 first author publications. So our most recent winner, Harrison Lee, actually has 6 first author publications when he applied. So it is competitive. It is definitely a lot of work, but I think it's definitely worth trying. If you are qualified, or if you think you're qualified, please contact me. At the bottom of the slide, there is a link for YouTube. That's just a very nice video of like what you can get from the scholarship. Again, I answer emails very quickly, so if you email me, hopefully earlier rather than later, I hope to be able to help you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Dr. Ongeko. And are you okay with staying on to answer questions at the end of?
Sure,
or?
I'll stay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, so moving on, our next speaker will be Dr. Ross Frank. He is a professor in the Department of Ethnic Studies, and he will be talking initially about the Rhodes Scholarship.
Hello, everybody. Nice to have you on board. So the Rhodes Scholarship is sort of the granddaddy of nationally competitive scholarships, and in fact, it's a world scholarship. It was started in 1903. And the first thing you need to know about the Rhodes Scholarship is that it's at Oxford University. So if you don't want to study at Oxford University for 2 or 3 years, don't apply to the Rhodes Scholarship. It's for any degree that Oxford offers, undergraduate, MA, or DPhil, which is the English equivalent of a PhD. The third year is with approval, but you can start on a program if you get a Rhodes Scholarship. And the reasons to go to Oxford are that it's a world-class research, cultural, and historical location. You mix with people from all over the world, including people that have some of the highest trained English degrees, students as well as professors. And the award is quite prestigious. Like the Churchill in science, the Rhodes is understood worldwide as showing that one's, a top mind and person, so to speak. The thing about the Rhodes Scholarship that's unusual for all these scholarships is that the Rhodes committees are really looking for complete people. They're looking for top scholars, people who have demonstrated both in class and in other activities that they can perform at the highest levels in academic and works of the mind, but also that they're active and actively engaged in the world. So well-rounded is something that people usually use to describe a Rhodes Scholarship. And you can see this in the actual application. So the application lists your regular things like you would have in a CV, the activities and whatnot, your transcript. A personal statement, which is you have to attest to being entirely your own work and you can get no help whatsoever and from anyone else. But you need at least 5 recommendations, and 4 of them have to be from academics who've taught you either in a course or in the lab. So basically people from UCSD or that you've worked with recently elsewhere. You can have up to 8 recommendations. So often people have more than the 5 that you need. But you can see from that just alone that it requires a real network of connections that you've made during the course of your undergraduate degree. You apply from your undergraduate institution, the institution that's giving you your degree. So you apply from UCSD, even if you've gone on to another university for an MA or PhD or law school or medical school. You can apply until your before your 25th birthday, and you apply for the region that the school is in. So you apply for the Southern California region, or you apply from where your permanent residence is. Most people from UCSD have applied from the Southern California or the Northern California region. There's 16 regions in the United States, and there are 32 scholarships given in the US for the Rhodes each year. Generally, UCSD uses a 3-person Rhodes nomination limit. If we have more people than that, we generally have a round of interviews on campus before one gets the go-ahead. And I'm the faculty liaison and person in charge of the UCSD process. So if you want to apply for Rhodes, you need to consult with me, preferably now, as soon as possible. The UCSD deadline is the first week of September this year. The Rhodes deadline is the first week of October. It's generally the first Wednesday of October. And I use that month to help you get your letters in and get those letters in a form that's useful to your candidacy. But you consult with me early about things like what your program of study is going to be, your strategy for picking the recommenders, the strategy for getting the recommenders to understand what the Rhodes requires. Now, just briefly, and you can look at the website for more of this, but the selection criteria are literary and scholastic attainment, so that's the intellectual component. The energy to use one's talents to the full, and this used to be based on success in sports, but now that's not a critical part, but it is one of the things that shows that you have the energy to use one's talents to the full. Truth, courage, devotion to duty, sympathy and protection of the weak, kindliness, unselfishness, and fellowship is another of the criteria. And moral force or character and instincts to lead and to take an interest in one's fellow beings. So applying for the Rhodes does require you to show that you have this well-roundedness that these criteria exemplify, but also all aspects of your application need to give you that picture of well-roundedness. What you're trying to do is get into the 10 to 15 people that are interviewed for the region that you apply for. We've had UCSD applicants get to that stage. We have never had a UCSD applicant actually receive a Rhodes Scholarship. So we need people to apply and get a Rhodes Scholarship for yourself and UCSD. So the thing you should do if you're interested in the Rhodes, particularly if you're going to apply for this current year for 2021 scholarship, you need to get in touch with me. I'll work with you to put together the application and the process to get faculty to write good letters of recommendation. Let's see. Your program of study is critical, but almost not as critical as this other aspect of showing your well-roundedness, and that needs to coordinate the letters of recommendation, your personal statement, and the other aspects of your portfolio. If you're not a senior or if you're not ready to apply, by all means, talk to me early, because just thinking about the way to put this together can help build a more successful application. Cultivating your letter writers is a thing that one would need to do quite soon, preferably before the end of this quarter, if you're seriously considering a run for the Rhodes in the fall. All right, so I'm happy to take questions, and I'll be on the Zoom call for another scholarship later.
There was a quick question for the Rhodes. We have a couple of minutes, I think. And so the question is,
I see it, yeah.
Is the Rhodes Scholarship oriented towards a specific type of study, such as STEM?
Yeah, so I should have said that. The Rhodes Scholarship, because you can apply for anything that Oxford teaches, it is open to any area of scholarship. And it's open to any degree as well. Until recently, US applicants for the Rhodes Scholarship have done mostly graduate degrees, often MAs, and Oxford has two kinds of MAs. They're taught MAs, which are generally one-year MAs in a particular subject, and then they're kind of research MAs, where you do essentially a research project in a year. And you can combine two of those for the 2 years of the Rhodes. Some students have done DPhils, so the equivalent of a doctor's degree at Oxford, and that generally takes a third year, and you get permission from the Rhodes after you get the scholarship and start the DPhil. But more recently, people have been doing second undergraduate degrees, and that used to be what most Rhodes Scholars did until the early 90s, and a second undergraduate degree is actually quite useful. For one thing, you're with younger undergraduates who actually have attained graduate level scholarship already as undergraduates at Oxford. So it's a really stimulating place to be. But in terms of area of study, everything is open, and Oxford has a huge number of programs, and you can see them on the Oxford Rhodes website. The question about how many UCSD students usually apply each year, it's a fairly small number, between 1 and 3. I've had as many as 4 in a given year. And I think 2 years ago we had someone who was interviewed in the district, and didn't receive the actual scholarship. But UCSD students are completely competitive. It's really about doing the work to amass a really compelling um, application, which basically has to stand out at the top 10 to 15 of one of these regions. And the regions have anywhere between 100 and 250 applications. And those applications are the top of the top from every university in the country that can send people to that district.
And then the next slide will actually be talking about the Truman Scholarship. Dr. Frank also advises for this.
I see one more question. I'll just answer that about the Rhodes. And the question is there generally a preference towards graduates and seniors versus juniors? So you basically only apply for the Rhodes in your senior year or afterwards. And the answer is that I have seen no preference, and I watch who gets the scholarships every year. And some people, many Rhodes Scholars, I would say even the bulk of them, come directly out of an undergraduate institution and take up the Rhodes Scholars. There are some people who go through the first year or so of a graduate program or a professional program and then take up a Rhodes. But I think that's a minority, no more than 20%, if that, of any given year. All right. So for the Truman, the Truman is a scholarship that you do apply generally in your junior year, and the junior year is defined fairly loosely, and you can see the wording on the Truman's scholarships on the Truman website. So I'm not going to go over it here. The point of the Truman is to give support during your senior year by putting you in connection and communication with a group of people who are dedicated to public service, leadership, and public policy, and then to pay for basically your graduate school training. So it's a fairly robust program. It's established after President Harry Truman, and you basically have to commit to 3 out of the following 7 years after your graduate program of doing some kind of public service. And that can be in government, it can be in an NGO. Again, it's fairly broadly defined, but they're looking to train people and to support people who are interested in some kind of public service leadership or public policy. The application is fairly simple, and I can nominate, I think, 3 or 4 students, and I have had years where we've come up to that limit. So the students generally can come from all sorts of social science and arts and humanities majors at UCSD. I've had all sorts. The application focuses on a public policy statement that you craft, and there are a number of different essays that you do in order to put that together. So it's something where you're staking a claim of something that needs to be done. You're staking a way of doing it. You're looking at the problems that you would have in actually putting this public policy that you're advocating, or this policy statement that you're advocating, in place, and then you have references and materials to back up your system. Um, I work with you at all aspects of the proposal. We talk about who you're going to ask to be your three faculty recommenders. Unlike the Rhodes, those recommenders are in three different areas. One's an academic person, one's a leadership person, and one's a public service person. And there are questions in the application that ask you about your experiences, and you tie those experiences to the actual person that you have recommending you for each of those three different areas. So it's a little bit involved. It's actually quite a nice process. The Truman Scholarship has an online application process that actually lets us do student to faculty advisor drafts and conversation, as well as meeting in person if that's something that we can do at that point. But basically, if you're a freshman or a sophomore, think about the Truman as an entry into the national competitive field. Often when you win one of these awards, um, you have a good possibility of getting other awards. You know, Truman people apply for the Rhodes, for the Marshall, for the Churchill as well. If you're a junior, if you're a sophomore now and going to be a junior in the fall, it's a really good time to talk to me. The actual application isn't available yet. I don't believe it's out. They've just completed the previous round, but it will be shortly. Uh, I need to sign you up before February 2nd, but that is actually the agency deadline. So of course, I want to meet with people at the very latest in December this year, but there is time. Early January is pushing it. The application is not that hard to do, but getting the faculty letters in place is always something that takes some time and effort. So I'll pause there and see if there are any questions.
Thanks, Dr. Frank. We'll actually hold the questions for the
Okay.
Truman until the very end. We actually need to get to our next speaker, who can only stay until 1 p.m. And so
Okay.
I wanted to move on real quick, but we will get to your questions at the end of the session. Thank you, Dr. Frank. Our next speaker is Dr. David Artis. He is the Director of Academic Enrichment Programs, as well as Dean of Undergraduate Research Advancement, and he will be speaking first about the British Marshall Scholarship.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for your interest in these scholarships. Let me say a word or two about the Marshall. I mean, as you can see here, this is for people who are interested in graduate study at a British university. Currently, there are 164 institutions of higher ed at the associated with the Marshall Scholarship, and you can basically apply for study at any of them. But there are 50 Marshall Scholars a year, so it's fairly demanding, and it really pays to think long and hard about which of these schools might serve your purpose best, not necessarily which is the best known. Let me just go over a couple of things. This is intended for people who are interested in the US and UK relations, and those have a way of spiraling out to be about any international relations, but the grounding is the US and the UK. And it's a very rigorous 1 or 2 year master's degree program. Students who apply have to have a 3.7 GPA, and they have to demonstrate they have to meet 3 criteria, which are academic potential, leadership potential, and ambassadorial potential. And I just want to read you one thing about their idea of academic merit, because I think that may be something people think is looking back at what you've done so far and what your GPA is and what kind of titles or awards you've already won. But they are interested in that, but the Marshall people are much more interested in where you see your academic career going. If you look on the Marshall site, under the academic merit criteria, it says these are the kinds of questions they're asking of the applicant. Is the proposed program coherent and well thought through? Does the candidate's writing give evidence of higher order thinking skills and the ability to express thoughts clearly and without jargon? 2, has the candidate established the relevance of the proposed academic program to his or her scholarly and career plans? And in the case of a research proposal, provided evidence of substantive engagement with the proposed supervisor. In other words, they're asking how much thought you have put into where you will go, what that university has to offer you, how you can make the best use of it. You have to prove to them that you have looked and found the best match for you. In fact, if, the second criteria, the leadership potential, one of the phrases they use is, this is one of the questions they ask that they would use in reviewing an application. Has the applicant demonstrated courage of conviction, persistence, and determination in the pursuit of his or her goals? So are you looking at something to which you are really dedicated? Again, not something that might interest you in a purely academic sense, or something that might give you a kind of an interesting experience before you set on the real purpose of your career. So if you are looking at a Marshall Scholarship, be aware of the fact that because there are so many places where you could apply, they want to know that you've done a survey and that you found a school. Maybe it's not one that people in the United States are as familiar with, but it's one that has the program that you need, one that's going to actually further a specific academic goal of yours. And you can apply to more than one program. In fact, they like that. It shows that you've given some thought to what's available as a Marshall Scholar beyond Oxford, Cambridge, University College London. So you have to be a citizen. You have to have the 3.7 GPA. You have to have received your BA sometime after April 2018. But you can do graduate study in any field. And as I said, there are ways that you can do a 1-year master's or a 2-year master's program. So we can go on to the next slide, Sophia. Okay. The George Mitchell Scholarship, this is for a post-bac study 1 year in Ireland. It is sponsored by the US-Ireland Alliance, and I'm just going to read you a statement from the Alliance. This is not my statement, this is on their website. The Alliance doesn't do leprechauns and green beer. So this is an opportunity for people who are serious about being an emerging leader. In fact, what they are looking for is, again, the same kind of evidence that you've looked, since you can do the study at almost any university in Ireland or Northern Ireland. They want to see that you have scouted out those universities, not just the ones that are in Dublin or someplace where you have a more personal connection, but do you have an idea for a coherent program? Do you know what these universities offer and can give you as part of perspective to do more work when you return to the US? You have to be a US scholar, a US citizen between 18 and 30 years old, but you can study in any discipline. And you have to have the 3 qualities they're looking for here are scholarship, leadership, and a commitment to community and public service. They don't define those last for you, but that is something that should come out in your letters and in your application. How will this enlarged perspective contribute to your ability to do public service? And it provides you with tuition, accommodations, and a living stipend. You do need the 4 letters of recommendation, because it is a smaller program with only 12 awards per year, we can nominate one. And it is a very coherent program. As you can see in this picture, all of the Mitchell Scholars are brought together at least a couple of times during their tenure in the program. So be aware that this is one where we don't get a lot of interest, but obviously there are great universities in Ireland, and I think that they are looking especially hard at places like UC San Diego for applicants. So if you have the interest in U.S.-Irish relationships, if you have a commitment to public service, this would be an excellent scholarship. Knight-Hennessey, so we, some of you might have been at the information session for this opportunity that we had last week. This is an opportunity for 3 years of fully funded graduate study at Stanford. It starts off at 3 years, and then there is help if you're in a program that goes beyond that and finding continuing support. You do need to apply to a graduate degree program. You have to understand that that application is separate from this one. This one is due October 14th. And so very likely your graduate degree program application will be due afterwards. So don't think it's going to be the same application. This is not where you make the case for yourself academically so much as it is where you make the case for yourself as someone who's going to be engaged with other emerging leaders. You can see they have awards for up to 100 scholars. And you can be from any country. This is very intentional. They want people to mix with a broad array of scholars from different backgrounds. So it's sort of study in any field. It's their activities centered around their own campus meeting place, Denning House on the Stanford campus, which was built just for this program. So there are a lot of activities that are talks and lectures, opportunities to travel that are meant to bring the Knight-Hennessey scholars together outside of their academic program. So be aware of the deadline here. This is one where you have until October 14th. You do not need an institutional endorsement for this, but I'm happy to look over applications, and I actually can write a university endorsement. You don't need it. You can apply without any contact, but I would say that there's a lot that I can help you with if we want to refine the application. Bear in mind though that the Knight-Hennessey decision and the graduate admission decision are separate. So even though you're applying earlier for the Knight-Hennessey than you would for admission to the graduate degree program, you probably, you will not know about the Knight-Hennessey until after you've heard the decision about your degree program. I'm sorry if I'm rushing. I have to go fairly soon, but I don't want to rush through everything. So I'm also willing to take a couple of questions and be late for my next meeting. The Goldwater Scholarship, this is not post-baccalaureate. This is for sophomores and juniors in natural sciences, engineering, and mathematics. This is a nationally competitive scholarship. If you heard Dr. Ungeko before talk about the Churchill Scholars, well, our Churchill Scholars, at least lately, have a pattern of having been awarded the Goldwater before they apply for the Churchill. They've either won the Goldwater or been an honorable mention for the Goldwater the last 3 of our Churchill Scholars. So it's a very good indicator of your interest and your willingness to put in the effort for an application like this. The way that the Goldwater works is that you need to complete a pre-application, and I need to approve it before you can move on to the real application. Now, so the application, I don't believe is open just yet, but it will be soon. And there are a couple of things that are a little different about it this year. One is that as part of the pre-application, you have to include 3 letter writers. But what they are now suggesting is that you don't put those in and then submit it to me, but actually you talk to me about the people you're thinking would be your letter writers. And then as part of that conversation, you and I would decide which people might be your best letter writers. Again, I don't know that that's absolutely necessary, but that is what Goldwater says is the best way to go about it. This is a research application and prize. So if you are in the natural sciences, engineering, and math, and you have to be a citizen or permanent resident, you will want to impress upon them that you are seriously considering a research career. They're often asked if people who want to go into medicine can apply for this, and yes, you can apply if your degree goal is an MD, but the stipulation is that they don't want to support practicing physicians. If you are primarily going to be a clinician, you should not apply for this. If you are interested genuinely in medical research, then this would be an excellent fellowship. 2 other things quickly. A number of students who are interested in Goldwater are students who are also interested in a BS-MS program. And the Goldwater Committee has said that the people, you cannot apply once you start the MS portion of the BS-MS. You should treat your 4th year as your senior year. So that means that you'll, again, want to remember this is an award for sophomores and juniors. So think about that. Don't apply in your 4th year. Obviously, you can't apply in the 5th year. And I want to read you something from the Goldwater site. So this might take just a moment. But this deals directly with the COVID-19 situation and the impact of remote research, because they understand that many students are not able to conduct hands-on research just at the moment. And hands-on research is the basis for most of the research essays that they receive. So I'm going to read to you just directly from the Goldwater site. They say, in the past, these research experiences have been used as the basis of the Goldwater research essay. However, we see this as an opportunity to help students understand that research does not just exist within a traditional research laboratory, but that research encompasses all the steps that create and disseminate new knowledge. Students are encouraged to participate in any faculty-mentored research experiences that are still open to them, including literature reviews, design of experimental protocols, analysis of existing data sets, computational studies, and writing research proposals. So if you are considering this scholarship and it looks like you won't be able to conduct hands-on research this summer or fall quarter, remember the application is due in January, don't be discouraged. Approach a mentor and say that the Goldwater people are going to be impressed with a well-done lit review, with an analysis, with a kind of strongly detailed research proposal. These are all things that are going to be looked upon favorably by the Goldwater Committee. So if you don't have a chance this summer or this fall to do hands-on research, but you think you're a good candidate for this award, don't be discouraged. So we can move on to the next slide if there's next one, or
I believe that is everything for Dr. Artis, and I think our questions are actually answered right now. So thank you for your time. We actually will have Dora Ogbonna, our current Goldwater winner, speaking later, so we can certainly ask her additional questions about the Goldwater.
And even though I'm leaving sooner than I would like, please contact me if you're interested. As I said, we can start working on the pre-application as soon as you're interested. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dr. Artis. Our next speaker will be Christian Tanja. He is the admissions officer for the Schwarzman Scholars Program. And so we're lucky to have him joining us from New York live. And so thank you. Christian, please tell us about the Schwarzman Scholars Program.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining, and thanks to David and Sophia for having me. Just a quick pause because I know you're getting a lot of information, which is fantastic. And again, congratulations for taking steps on trying to find what is next. I'm grateful for the time that you're giving me, even if it's a short, quick moment to shed some light on the situation. I think in particular, I want to start off by saying a call to action to learn more about all the different scholarships that we presented today. I think it's a top of mind thing for us to see representation of all different institutions, and we don't currently have a scholar yet from UC San Diego, but we are looking to change that. You can learn more about Schwarzman Scholars via our website at schwarzmanscholars.org, but in a nutshell, the founding mission of the program is to prepare leaders for a world in which China plays a key role. And I think the pandemic does makes a very strong case to why young leaders across many different fields would be interested in learning some of the technologies, best practices, and the values that China has. And so we give you a front row seat through an 11-month immersive master's degree program in global affairs from the prestigious Tsinghua University. Tsinghua was not by accident. It is the one of the best known universities in China and throughout the world. It is the alma mater of the current and past presidents of China, and also is the alma mater to many different government and business leaders. And because of that, we wanted to arm you with the pedigree to be able to create some traction when it comes to the spaces of leadership. So like I said, it's a fully funded program. We provide a lot of different levers from core curriculum to travel seminars. We have a really extensive list of webinars and opportunities to engage with our scholars on our website. So please do look at that. In particular, I want to shout out for UC San Diego. I know STEM is really one of the best things about UC San Diego. I can say that as a Californian myself, that we want to see STEM leaders. And this pandemic even shows why economists have to partner with engineers and partner with epidemiologists, because it's so important that in order to figure out a calculus to respond to some of these pandemics and these challenges, that we have to have a lot of coordination there. And so being able to be a part of the scholar and alumni network really gives you that untapped access to a lot of different people who are serving as political leaders, as business leaders, etc. So among all the different awards that you've heard today, it's really a spectrum for you to kind of figure out what the landscape is. As far as eligibility goes, we range from the ages of 18 to 28. You can be from any citizenship, but you must have your undergraduate degree and prove English language fluency. We were designed for people who knew nothing about China. And so a lot of times we have people who, through their research, through their investigation of their topics, want to learn more about China. And unlike some of the other scholarships that you heard from today, we're brand new. We were founded in 2016, and this June, when we graduate our current class, we will pass the milestone of 500 scholars from all around the world. The composition of each class is to maximize the geographic, the demographic, and professional variance within each class, but there's not an urgency to apply right away. So, just start by visiting the website, learning more about the program, and absolutely reach out to me. We are banking on the vision that in the future, we will have our scholars who are leading countries, companies, communities, and cultures, and doing their best to work in tandem together to really create a lot of meaningful change. My name is Christian. Feel free to reach out to me. You can via email as well as LinkedIn, and let's start off with a conversation. And with that, I hope that was enough. Work smarter, not harder, and make sure that if you're applying for any of these nationally competitive scholarships, that you create that board of directors who will support you. Thank you, Sophia. Over to you.
Thanks, Christian. That was a great conversation that you started, and I hope people do reach out to you. We're looking to get one of our UC San Diego students over there with you in Tsinghua University as a Schwarzman Scholar. All right, so next we have Michelle Monroy. She is part of the graduate division, and she'll be speaking first about the Fulbright Scholarship. And I hope she is available. Are you there, Michelle? Hi there.
Should I just go ahead and start?
Yes, whenever you're ready.
Okay. So I just wanted to go ahead and introduce myself really quick. So my name is Michelle Monroy. I am part of the graduate division. I'm the graduate fellowship advisor. So basically I help students apply for apply for graduate fellowship opportunities, and that includes helping them review their proposals and helping them actually submit their applications and just kind of guiding them throughout the whole process. So that's a little bit just about me and what I do. So the first fellowship that I'm going to talk about is the Fulbright U.S. Student Program. Some background on this program is that it was started after World War II by Senator William Fulbright. After World War II, there was a surplus of weapons that he decided to sell, and that became the seed funding for this program. The intention was to not have a World War III happen again, and with that basic premise was born the Fulbright mission statement, which is mutual understanding through exchange. So that's kind of where the whole that's the mission of Fulbright. So whenever you're applying to one of these grants that are available, keep that in mind, and keep in mind how your application can help propel their mission through your work. So the program is available in over 140 countries. So you have 140 countries plus to choose from. And it comes in 3 different programs. And there are more programs, but these are the 3 big main ones. The first program is the ETA program. This program allows you to teach English abroad in a classroom. So what you are doing is that you're helping teach students English, and you are also teaching the culture, kind of just bridging the gap between Americans and that foreign country. So that is one program, the ETA program. The second program is the research program. So as a graduate student or even a recent undergrad, you can create a research project that will take you abroad, and you will have about a year or 9 months to carry out that project. The third type of award is the Open Study Award. What that means is basically you're applying for a fellowship, I have fellowship in my head. Okay, so you are applying for a grant that will allow you to complete a graduate degree abroad. Oftentimes the research application is bridged with open study, so they call it an open study research application, but I like to take those 2 apart in order to show that there are kind of different options within that single option. So keep in mind ETA, research grant, and open study grant. So those are the 3 kind of most popular choices. There's also very specialized awards if you're interested in like public health, or if you're interested in National Geographic and you want to do more of a multimedia kind of application, there are other options for you. Just keep that in mind. You can find these specific opportunities by going on the Fulbright website and looking at them by country to see what options are available for you. So what the award includes is a round-trip travel to your host country, funding to cover room and board, and accidental like health insurance. And let's see, some of the requirements are that you should be a U.S. citizen by the time of application. You should have a BA or a BS, so you should have completed your undergrad education by the time you actually get the award, which is why we allow senior undergraduates to apply for this award. So if you are in your last year of your undergrad, or you are graduating right now, you are eligible to apply. Some of the application components include a personal statement, a statement of grant purpose, transcripts, 3 letters of recommendation, and depending on your country, you may need to prove some foreign language abilities. Also, I think, I don't know if there's any questions about that.
There's actually one question. For Fulbright, what qualifies as proficiency? Do you need it certified through a test or an exam, or can you have a language professor attest to your proficiency?
So yeah, that's a great question. So the English proficiency depends by, It varies by country. So if you go to, if you decide to teach English abroad in China, you might have to prove a lower Mandarin speaking ability, as opposed to if you go to, I can't think of another country, but some countries require that, I think like the Latin American speaking countries require that you have a higher level of English proficiency, but all of that information you will find by going through to the country specific opportunity through the Fulbright website. So it just, again, a lot of times, I apologize, but when you ask questions, you being just like kind of in general, when there are questions about about Fulbright, it depends. It depends a lot about the country that you are applying to, and it depends a lot about the award you're applying to.
Definitely, that sounds great. And then we have another slide to talk about the National Science Foundation's Graduate Research Fellowship Program.
Yes, so the NSF GRFP, so this is a merit-based fellowship. Basically what that means is that they're looking a lot at your academic qualifications. So it supports students in the STEM disciplines who are pursuing research-based masters and PhDs. But there's also social sciences that are included in the GRFP. The cool thing about this fellowship is that it's actually a portable fellowship. So it can make you more attractive to the college that you're applying to, because you come with your own funding. If you start your PhD program here at UCSD, and then maybe a year into the program, you decide, you know what, this is not the school for me, you transfer to another university, you can actually take that fellowship with you. Some of the award, what the award includes is a $34,000 stipend, and that is actually dispersed throughout the whole year, so throughout 12 months. And you also get $12,000 towards tuition and fees, and also $1,000 for graduate study in research and science engineering. In addition to those award benefits, you are also eligible to apply for other opportunities once you have the GRFP, which would include opportunities for professional development, like going to a lab in Washington that you wanted to study what's going on with their oceanography lab or something like that. But just know that that's also an option there too. I don't know if there's any questions.
At this point, I don't think there's any questions. We were hoping that one of our students, oh, we do have a question actually. They asked if they need letters of recommendation for the NSF Graduate Research Fellowship.
I do believe you do need that, and yes, short answer, yes.
I believe, actually, I think you need 3 letters for that one. There is more information on our website, so certainly check it out. You can also go to the nsfgrfp.org website, and they also have a lot of detailed information there. So certainly, if you don't get your questions answered here about the NSF, you can reach out to us. There's another question right now. Is the NSF for PhD only?
No, I think there are master specific opportunities. Again, just go to their website and browse through and see what opportunities they are. If you get stuck and you're like, oh, I don't know if that means me, like the way they word it on the page is a little bit weird, let me know. Send an email to gradadvisor@ucsd.edu, and we'll look into it and we'll check it out.
Fantastic. Okay, and I think that pretty much concludes most of our talks. We did have a student, Dora. I will flash this up again later, but this is actually all of the different speakers that we have and contact information for all of them. And so you can certainly reach out to them if you have any questions. But I do want to go and have Dora come and speak, because she is one of our very recent Goldwater winners. And I wanted her to tell us a little bit about her experience in terms of applying and what she thinks might be good tips for trying to receive the award. Dora?
Hi, everyone. My name is Dora Ubona. I'm a second-year chemical engineering student at the Department of Chemical Engineering here at UCSD. I'm also the current Goldwater Scholar for UCSD. So I heard about the Goldwater Scholarship program when I went to one of these seminars as well. And that was last year, I believe. And my process to applying was I was in part of the camp program during the summer, and I applied. And after taking the camp program, I applied for different conferences in which I got in and I did present. And I thought it would be a good idea to also present at, to also give my work to a scholarship, sorry about that. And then I believe I started doing the work before fall, and I wrote about the work that I did. So if you don't know, some of the requirements which you need to turn in would be you need a research proposal. You also need 3 letters of recommendation. And I knew that my fall quarter would be a hectic quarter. So I planned all of those in advance. I started writing my research proposal during like the first weeks of fall quarter. And I also contacted my 3 faculty recommendation letter writers later, but that was after I had gotten in contact with Dr. Artis to discuss my application as well. And one thing I would say, one good advice would be to start early, because it's always due like the first couple of weeks of January. So I think ours was due like January 10th. And the due date for both letter writers and non-letter writers or the student are different days. I believe that the student proposal is due like earlier than the letter writers. So I did try to like finish mine earlier, and also contact those who would be writing a letter at least a month in advance. Because I think this scholarship, as much as it's dependent on your research proposal, you also need to have endorsement from other people as well. So talk to them earlier so that they can start writing your letter at like an earlier time. But yeah, I don't know if there's any questions you have for me. I'll be eager to answer any of them.
Thanks for telling us a little bit about your experience, Dora, and hopefully we do have some questions. As of right now, we don't have anything yet, but it might take a minute for people to put in questions. I did have a question for Christian Tanja, and so this question is about Chinese proficiency level. Can you speak a beginner's level, or is it recommended to speak a higher level?
Yeah, a majority of the class either has no Mandarin level or very basic elementary level Mandarin. Again, when Stephen Schwarzman had founded the program, he really saw the gap of network skills and knowledge with China, and so that's why Mr. Schwarzman and over 100 international donors commit to the cause, because they recognize that now is the time to make sure that they create relationships to see China as an ally rather than an adversary. So don't be shy if you don't have any China experience or any Mandarin level. We're really focused on leadership. We're focused on demonstrated leadership, intellect, that you're interdisciplinary in the way that you look at problem sets and that you use data to inform those decisions. We're looking at character. And what I'll say about leadership is that everyone has to define it for themselves. That's influenced by where you grew up, what you studied. But ultimately, it's not always marked by where everything went right. I think crisis and challenges is where leadership is revealed. And so it's really a conversation of where did you fail? Where were you vulnerable? What are the different ways in which you're able to bring communities along with you to the decision-making table? So if that sounds like something that's really special to you, again, I am biased towards California students. I'm also biased towards first-generation college students, transfer students, people who have these stories that really make them resilient leaders. And so if that is part of your call to action of wanting to change the world, then do look further into Schwarzman Scholars and reach out. But thanks for the question.
Fantastic. Thanks, Christian. I have a question for Dr. Frank. He may have answered this a little bit in the text earlier, but in general, we've had a few questions about what junior standing means. And so can you please explain more about what constitutes a junior?
This is for the Truman. And it's very specific. On the website, it says that you're a full-time student pursuing a bachelor's degree with junior level academic standing or senior level standing, but in your 3rd year. So if you're a 4th year senior, you can't apply for a Truman, but anything before that, you can. If you're in your 2nd year and you have junior standing, you have the opportunity to apply early, but it's probably a good idea to wait till your 3rd year. And then as long as you still meet that definition of pursuing a bachelor's degree with junior level or a senior level in your third year.
Great, thank you, Dr. Frank. Heading back to Christian, the question about Schwarzman, are classes taught in English?
Yeah, the classes are taught fully in English. I think one of the unique things that is central to this program is that you're getting the perspective of not just international professors or American professors teaching you about China, but you're actually having that co-taught by professors who are from Tsinghua University and are Chinese themselves. And so a lot of what we do within the core curriculum and the academic setting is give you all those different frames. Even as an international student, it's understanding China's relationship to the world. And so not everyone is about the US-China relationship, but it's also looking at issues of importance from different multicultural frames. But again, our job as admissions officers to make each cohort as different from itself as possible. And so while you can go to our website to view all the different bios, an important question is what isn't there? And what isn't there yet is a UCSD student. So we are looking for more Tritons to participate in the program. But we have PhD chemists, we have pageant queens, we have pilots, we have people who've served in the US military, and their own international military. But the idea is that what different things add to the intersectionality of your identity that can really be important for serving different communities in the future. Because at the end of the day, we want people who are a lot of do-gooders, who show the industriousness of putting, not just espousing values are important, but really enacting them. We also want to see that they're coachable, that they're open-minded and they're growth-minded in the way that they approach things. But at the end of the day, that their intrinsic motivation is really tied to driving results in a positive way and knowing that they have to work with others to get there.
Fantastic. Thanks, Christian. This is a question in general, not to any specific speaker, but is there a website to get all the information from this webinar? And we do have an information website. It is NCS, National Competitive Scholarships.ucsd.edu. And again, I'm showing you this last slide where you can contact all of our speakers. I know there's been questions from many students about how to reach out to these individual speakers because there is interest in many of these scholarships. And so certainly you can reach out to these people directly. You can also go to the NCS website and have individual websites explain to you more about what each of the scholarships are about. You can also make appointments with me, Dr. Sophia Tai. I would be happy to meet with you and just talk to you more about what makes sense for you to apply to. That's kind of my role as National Competitive Scholarships Officer. And so I can be more of your generalist that points you to the right professor or campus liaison to talk to, or even ones that don't require campus liaisons. So today we focus mostly on ones that do require, or it helps to have somebody to talk to with regards to submitting your application, but there are many more applications out there that are competitive nationally that you don't need to go through us to submit. And so you can certainly find more of them on our website. There are others that are not on our website as well. And so you can come talk to me. I'm happy to explain more to you about what might be a good possibility for you. And so I don't think we have any more questions at this point. We are a couple minutes early, but please feel free to reach out to any of our campus liaisons. Dr. Artis, Kim Burton, Christian Tanja, Dr. Frank, Michelle Monroy, and Dr. Weg Ongeko. All of them are very happy to work with you and try to get you into one of these different scholarships. And so please reach out. Thank you to all of our speakers today for taking the time out and for being with us to explain more about this and get out the word. If you have questions, or if your friends have questions, please send them our way, and we're looking forward to speaking with you soon. Take care and stay safe.